Hello and welcome to Engine Adventures off-road review of this 2022 Nissan Pathfinder Platinum with all-wheel drive. It actually rides really quite well, even at higher speeds off-road, but it pretty much just runs out of wheel travel right away. Very limiting on the wheel travel area. So great vehicle overall, really enjoyed it. Let's go ahead and get into the high-speed off-road driving, and then we'll do all these hill climbs and articulation tests. We are in sand mode, and let's go ahead and switch over here so we can see what's going on with the all-wheel drive system. There you go. So there you go, 50-50 split with power in sand mode. This may be the mode that I use most of the time. I'm off the throttle now, so it's just kind of idling, and that's why it's switched off of the 50-50. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of high speed once we get around this corner here. And of course it's raining. It's been raining a little bit past couple of days, so we're going to have a wet road with a lot of splashes, which should be good. All right, here we go. Let's get up to the 20 miles an hour and see what we can do. At 20 now. 18, I guess it's showing 19. I'm a little bit nervous. This is still the first time I've done it, so you see we drop down to 17. And there we go, 20. Oh yeah, it's a little rough. Definitely bottoming out on some of those. So we'll drop it down a little bit, and definitely drop it down here. I mean, it's smooth, but the wheel travel is minimal. So we're going the opposite direction that we would normally go. We'll get a little bit of footage coming back the other way, but it is definitely very smooth for the very limited amount of wheel travel that it has. As soon as it reaches the end of the wheel travel, it hits kind of hard. So I rate this vehicle at about a 17 through that. So 20 is the goal. If you're above 20, that's definitely a very nice, smooth ride. If you're below 20, there still is a difference. So even at 17, this thing rides really smooth, but it just bottoms out so fast and doesn't have a ton of clearance. Things like the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, you could go about same speed, 17 to 20, but it's just so rough. So even at 17 miles an hour, it's rocking you all over the place in the Rubicon. And this thing, it's pretty planted, very smooth. Handling was tight and really quite nice. So I like it overall. Let's go ahead and drive back the other way. Make sure there's no boulders in front of us. All right. Get past the one rock here, and then we'll take off. Okay, and we'll try for that 17, 18 mile an hour range again. We're currently at 16, 17, there we go. Well, yeah, that seems to be kind of the limit. It's much smoother than, well, it bottomed out a little bit there. It's much smoother at 17 than it is at 20, where it's constantly bottoming out. This one, it's 17, 18, it's just kind of handling it. Let's set up the camera for an exterior shot.
Nissan's ABLS system is very aggressive and works really well on the Pathfinder. I was very surprised here in the small articulation hill how little wheel spin there is. If you watch that rear wheel, it barely spins more than the front wheel, even though it's completely in the air. Here in snow mode, it basically had the same performance as it did in auto mode, with the exception that I did have to give it more throttle. Sometimes that's better, it gives you more control versus sensitive throttle, but ultimately, very similar climb to the auto mode. In mud and ruts mode, there was a tiny bit more slippage, but then again, look how quickly it stops the spinning wheels, and I'm able to ease into the throttle and make it out of this. I think overall there was a little bit more wheel spin, but not much. Again, in sand mode, it performed really similar to the other modes. Maybe a tiny bit more wheel slip, a little more sensitive on the throttle, but really similar performance to all the other modes. It seems to be the same story every time. A little bit of wheel slip initially, then it kind of locks up. Does a really good job of braking the spinning wheels. Eco mode, maybe a touch more throttle was required, but really similar to the other modes. Here in sport mode, the throttle was definitely more sensitive, made it so it revved a little quicker. I'm not sure if the traction control was less limiting. I didn't really notice much difference, but again, similar results to the other tests in the other modes. Not sure what else there is to say. It's basically the same results. Throttle was maybe a little bit more sensitive than auto mode, not quite as sensitive as sport mode, but again, same results as all the other tests. To turn off traction control, you scroll through this screen till you get to that settings, and then right there at the top, VDC settings, and you can turn that off or on. When you turn it off, it turns off traction control and the pre-collision alert and all that stuff, automatic braking. So I did not notice this till after we had done the small articulation hill, so we might try this again. We'll see what we can do. All right, we're gonna turn off traction control for this first climb and just see what we can do. And we're just gonna go to the ruts right at the bottom of the hill. I am in mud and ruts mode. And it still is applying the brakes pretty aggressively. So I think I could have made it out of that. Let me go to auto mode and see what it does with traction control off. Yeah, so even with vehicle dynamic control turned off, it's applying the brakes. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that back on, and we're gonna hit sand mode. Pedals on the floor. This is not the result I expected. I have it locked in first gear. Okay, interesting. Here I'm trying to make the climb with traction control off, and you can hear the tires kind of spinning. You don't really hear the engine revving much, so even with traction control off, it's either doesn't have enough torque from, you know, the braking of the spinning wheels, or it's limiting the amount of power that the engine is allowed to output even with the stability control off. I go ahead and flip it back on and switch to sand mode and basically get the same result.
Sand mode is what I perceive to be the best. So we're gonna do see if we can get into the hardest section here. And I'm full throttle, it's just not even trying. Okay, we're gonna turn off traction control. And here we go, full throttle again. It's a little bit scary as it's sliding. It's definitely doing slightly better, but just not gonna do it. I don't have room to turn the steering wheel side to side.
So here I try to take a slightly easier line and then hit the hardest spot with a little bit of momentum, but as soon as the wheels hit the air and lose traction, you see the engine cuts power entirely and not able to move forward. I go ahead and switch traction control off here in a second, and when I do that, I get a little bit of forward momentum, but the front wheel drive bias causes the front wheels to slide a lot more than the rear and pulls the car sideways. If it was pushing from the rear right there, it wouldn't be dragging it off the side of the trail. I got a little bit nervous, might have been able to make this, but probably not, and I didn't want to overwhelm the system, so I called it quits there. I was full throttle through most of that.
Okay, we have one more attempt. Let's do that in normal mode. Traction control's off and full throttle. Not gonna do it. Okay, let's take the easy line. After the articulation hill, I really expected more out of this, but I think it's just lacking on low range. The 9-speed auto has a fairly low first gear, which made the articulation hill an easy climb initially. Come on, there we go. We'll carry a little momentum through this. See if we can't make it. It just kind of stops me, which is kind of annoying. I'll turn off traction control again. Let's try that one more time with traction control off. Don't do that. There we go. Gonna end up in the rocks right there. Let's see if we can get out of this. Okay, full throttle, almost, not quite. Come on, come on, come on. Okay. Woo! That's a little bit scary. This is a pre-production vehicle. I don't want to be hammering it too much, but got to do what you got to do to get up the hill. So I did go full throttle there, and with traction control off, it limits cutting power to the engine enough that I was able to make it with momentum. Without momentum, it brakes really hard, really fast, stops the momentum entirely, and then it has to build that up again. So in this vehicle, definitely carry momentum, but it doesn't have a ton of ground clearance. So you have to be careful when you're going fast not to hit anything, obviously. It's just a little harder to control when you're at speed than when you're crawling slowly. Okay, we're gonna try this crust one more time. I'm not doing so hot with it right now, so let's see what we can do. Full throttle. There it is. It's a lot of work.
When I reset the cameras to get this angle for you guys, I didn't carry enough momentum through on my first couple of tries, and I went ahead and reshot from the inside and the outside, and finally on my third attempt I was able to make it all the way up.
So if you're in auto mode, the downhill assist doesn't work. But if you're in any of the off-road modes, snow, mud or rut, sand, it does work. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my foot off the brake again, and it's doing its thing. Looks like it prefers 3 miles an hour. At this point, we'll see if it slows down as we get to a less steep spot. And I'm not gonna do the steep hill. I've had enough stress for one day, I guess. Yeah, it kind of just seems to be holding 3 miles an hour, and doesn't look like I can adjust that speed. Paddle shifters, the cruise control, none of that. So I did let off. Now it's not as steep. It's up to 6-7 miles an hour. There it goes, kicking back in, holding at 8 now. So yeah, it works. It's just kind of a little bit higher than you want for the steep hill climb, but it'll help slow you down. I still haven't touched the brakes yet. Typically I don't use the downhill assist features because I don't trust them enough. Much like the self-driving features, I just don't know what it's going to do, when it's going to do it, and it's often much better for me to have control, although the downhill assist often can do a really good job of braking the wheels more proportionally. So often you're going down the hill, especially backwards, your front brakes will lock. Well, I guess even forwards, because it's designed for street use where you have a lot of traction. When you hit the brakes, it transfers power to the front. When you're driving forward, obviously, sorry, transfers weight to the front. And so your front brakes are a lot bigger, typically better ventilation on them, all that kind of stuff, because they take a majority of the load. When you're off-road, that becomes a little bit of an issue because it no longer brakes proportionally front and rear. It's applying more force to the front and locks those up a lot quicker, causing you to lose your steering ability. Anyway, the downhill assist does a much better job because it can brake wheels individually much quicker and smoother. The only problem is you don't know how fast it's going to go. It might go faster than you want it to, and it may not be as accurate as you want it to be.
Underneath, it's about what you would expect, with everything hanging down low, nothing protected. We do get a nice view of this rear differential with the clutch pack there and the electronic controller for that, and then a full-size spare tire, but really nothing in the way of protection.
I didn't realize how noisy it would be right here, so hopefully we can get this. Anyway, thank you for watching Engine Adventures off-road review of this 2022 Nissan Pathfinder. It's actually pretty capable off-road. The braking system, Nissan's ABLS or EBLS, I can't remember now, ABLS, that's what it is. Works really well. It applies brakes to the spinning wheels. Really fast, really aggressive. The only problem is it cuts your power too much, applying the brakes that hard. So when you get on the steep hill climb, it's just too much of a struggle. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit thumbs up, ring the bell, subscribe, and comment down below. If you didn't like it, be sure to comment down below and let me know why. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.